the fall of 1952, Don enrolled at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas, where he was later named Southwest Conference Freshman of the Year as well as Sophomore of the Year. After completing his senior year, Don was chosen to play on several All-Star teams, including North-South Shrine All-Star Game, the Senior Bowl, and the College All-Star Game, and was the 26th overall pick in the NFL draft that year. As a rookie running back for the Detroit Lions, Don started his career with 5 touchdowns in his first 4 games. In 1957, he was traded to the Green Bay Packers and played with the Packers in 57, 58, and 59. The following spring of 1960, he was awarded in an expansion draft to be the first running back for the Dallas Cowboys. He finished his career in 1961 with the San Francisco 49ers. Following his NFL experience, he found himself in the insurance business and in a short period real estate as well as oil and gas investments in Texas. He later formed his own oil and gas production company, and as well in 2007, Don was inducted into Metropolitan Public Schools Sports Hall of Fame. He married his college sweetheart, Jan Baldwin, now his bride of 55 years, and together they have 4 children and 7 grandchildren. And he best describes his time now as a full-time grandfather and a part-time coffee drinker at his local Starbucks. Don McIlhenny, congratulations.
Nick Kutrich was a teammate, a year younger than Don, and Nick was successful, as many of you know, coaching at Overton, won state championship late over here. He told me the story. He said one night they were in the huddle and they were getting beat by a team in the 4th quarter that they were supposed to beat pretty handily. And Don sort of getting disgusted with his teammates, and Don just told him in the huddle, he said, "Just hand me the ball and get out of my way." He took the ball and he ran over about 5 or 6 of them and outran the rest of them, and they won the football game. I think that was against Central too, Don. Don McIlhenny was a great running back. I was at Stokes when he finished school. He finished in the spring of '52. I came over in the fall of '52. I didn't get to be on the coaching staff, but he was one fine football player. Don, come on here. Scab on my nose. And I think my wife will testify that perhaps when I met her, I had a scab on my nose. And that brings up something. I was going to be a senior at SMU and had a successful career. And I was told that a friend of mine, his cousin, was coming to SMU. And for some reason I thought it was a boy. And I was a senior and a little bit cocky, and we were over at the first day of school and checking out the new girls, and I looked at this girl at the post office, there, student union. I said, "Who is that blonde over there?" And he says, "Well, that's Don Baldwin's cousin." I said, "Bull, his cousin's a boy." And he says, "No, that's cousin." I said, "Well, that is no boy." And I went over and I said, "Hi, I'm Don." This is how I told the story anyway. I went over and I said, "Hi, I'm Don McIlhenny." And I tell her, she says, "So?" And we started dating, and we've been going for 55 years. Jan, would you stand up? Please. Somebody asked me what I'm going to talk about, and that's the best thing I can talk about. But I had a great experience here at Hillcrest. Hillcrest is across the street from us in Dallas, in HILLSBORO. I'm sorry. And a lot of it was around football, and I was associated with 2 of the greatest gentlemen, and that would be Billy Mack and Coach Ed Hesse. I drove by the school the other day, and it says the Ed Hesse Gymnasium, and that doesn't say near enough about Ed Hesse. Ed Hesse, as you heard, was everything here for many, many years. The other day I pulled out my annual from 1952 and looked at it, and it has, as Mr. Hesse said and wrote it, he says, remember, Matt, 50% will not get the job done at SMU. And that's what that's taught me. You got to work your butt off. And I have to attest to the fact I worked my butt off. And my success at a lot of it, at any level, was as a result of my experience with Ed Hesse. I'm very proud to be here and to accept the award from Mr. Hesse, and I'm sorry his family wasn't here. He was one sweet guy, and I offer thanks to him, and thanks to the other coaches, Vince Lombardi being one as well, who helped me, and Tom Landry, the greats. And I put Ed Hesse up there with those two guys, and I just happen to be along for the ride. I thank you very, very much. Thank you.
I know the selection committee appreciates the fact, and we all do, that he came all the way from Texas to be with us. Here.
Remember the family here for this award?
The plaques, by the way, we each one that inducted get a personal plaque. They'll have identical plaque that will be hung on the appropriate wall over the gymnasium area. So they'll be there for other people to see those. Also, the beginning of the Hillsborough Hall of Fame. So we appreciate the committee for thinking that through. Next inductee, Billy Mac Jones. Going to accept it. This plaque, I did have the pleasure of coaching it, Bill Cochran. And Bill, walk slowly. I want to say something about you. Don't walk fast. You came up steps too fast. Hold on.
All right, Coach.
You almost fell right. Billy Mac was an all-around athlete over at Hillsborough President Student Body. Bill Cochran. I got invited to a nice party at Bellmead Country Club. I was on the guest list, and Bill was being honored as one of the top executives in insurance. Not local, not just state, not national, international. A fellow from England he was presented. So this guy had done great after he got out of school. He was a fine person in school, but he had done great. One of the top executives. We're proud of you, Bill. I want you to know that. Now, come on up.
Hell, if you want more time, I'll give it to you. You know, as I was about to participate in this, and I'm looking at this menu of outstanding award winners, there was a lot of winning going on at this school in the 1950s. And I look at the coaches, I look at the athletes, and this was a great place to be. And I guess that it was our senior year that we opened up this new building. And I remember exactly the same, except it looks a little bit sprucier today than it did. Well, it's a real pleasure for me to accept this award for Billy Mac Jones. Coach Jones and I had a great relationship as coach-student, but I had the opportunity over the years to be able to visit with him while he made this, as he moved through his distinguished academic career. The first time I visited with him, it was in the mid to late 50s when he was down at MTSU and on the faculty and as a coach, and he had gained his master's from George Peabody College. The second time was in the 70s when he was president down at Memphis State. And then the third time was about 2001, I think. He was well into his retirement, and I was approaching my retirement. And that was in Dallas, Texas. And he lived right outside of Dallas. And on each of those occasions, we had just thoughtful, thorough, deliberate discussions with no interruption. And as I look back on those visits, there were three repetitive themes that occurred in those discussions. First was the career and family check-in. He'd tell me about his family and his career progress, and then I would respond with my report. Then the second part of it would go to a resurrection of key games that took place in the 53-54 basketball year. Now that was important to him because it was his last year here, and it was important to me because it was my first year on the varsity. And the moral of all this is once the high school basketball coach, always a basketball coach, because what he would say, we need to talk about the DuPont game. Now, the significance of that is for those of you who have good memories, nobody beat DuPont on their home floor. Billy Mack had never done it. And this was the team that probably had the least experience, probably the least amount of talent. I'm talking about his 4 years. And it only had one returning starter. And one of the things that Billy Mack did that year is he changed totally his offense. He had this three-guard proposition, the weaving three guards and the two on the wings in the corner that worked well for him for his first 2 years. But because we had one great talent in the center, Bobby Hatcher, he just changed it to the traditional 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center. And it worked. We won 23 straight games. I was selling popcorn the first game. Got on the team by the second game, so I had the experience of never having lost. And that was pretty. So this story is about the win and the horrible loss. And the win was over at DuPont. And close game. They always had tall, rangy athletes. And they had, I think they had a miniature gym. They had a small gym. And they had a zone that you just couldn't seem to beat. So we go out there, and we're playing a great game, and it's a close game. And our star, Bobby Hatcher, leading scorer in the NIL, most valuable in the NIL, fouls out with about 4 or 5 minutes to go. Everybody up in that stands, all those DuPont folks, just giddy about it. So 6'5", Bobby Hatcher comes to the bench. 5'8", Channy Workman. Where's Channy? He's somewhere. Billy Mack Jones, through some kind of judgment, decides he's going to put this B-team player who just joined the team, what was it? First team, the varsity. I don't do much public speaking. And so I was standing there, and everybody, and the stands were giggling about the mistake Billy Mack Jones had made. good news and not so good news, and it makes the point that I made earlier, is the last game of that season happened in the regional, and we got beat by an unnamed team, but it was from a private school, and it's one of the worst days of my life. It was another bad day that you and I had down in But anyway, the point of this, on the loss, this is what Billy Mack said every time. He took the blame for the loss. He said, you know, Bill, we were scrambling that whole game. We were behind. We were a better team. They were hot. We were not having a good night. And we got within about 3 or 4 points, and I should have called a timeout. If we had called a timeout, we'd have regrouped. You guys would have caught your breath, and we'd have won that game, and we'd gone on to the state. I don't know if that was true or not, but I will tell you, once a high school coach, always a high school coach. He loved talking about it. Now, one final point. These were great visits. I would always conclude our visit with saying, Coach, what's been the best part of your distinguished academic career? Don, I bet you know what the answer is. He said the 4 years at Hillsborough High School. And I think the same is true for all of us. Thank you.
Next inductee, Steve Thompson.
Steve Thompson. Steve Thompson was a member of the Hillsborough High School class of 1957. Steve was one of the greatest athletes ever to play at Hillsborough High School. Steve's life was cut short when he died from an injury sustained on the football field during his junior year at Hillsborough. Steve was the first freshman to letter in football and was recognized as an honorable mention on the All-State team that year. Those who knew him well said he would certainly have been an All-State player his senior year, where he was destined to have a fine career and being recruited by Division I schools in college. In 1954, Steve was compared in a newspaper article to the great Don McIlhenny. In addition to football, Steve was also a track athlete as well as a basketball player. 55 years later, people still have very strong feelings about Steve and what he meant to the community, both as an athlete and as a human being. For those who knew him, their lives were forever blessed. For those who only know of him, their lives have been blessed for what we know about him. Steve Thompson, congratulations.
Steve's nephew is going to accept the award. And his name happens to be Steve.
I was told I didn't have to say anything today, so I didn't have anything prepared, but my mother has been looking forward to this for a very long time. She was not able to be here, so I'm honored that she asked me to do it. And so I'm just accepting it for my mother and both my uncles that are here. And I never got to meet Uncle Steve, but I heard a lot of wonderful stuff about him. So thank y'all.
Steve Thompson was an All-American boy. He was just something else. I can tell you a lot of Steve Thompson stories. Well, I couldn't tell all of them here, but Steve was one of all of our favorites. And we got a good group here representing Steve and the family today. Steve had an older brother, Hez, that I had in class. Hed's still in there. Yeah, there you are, Hed. Then he had a sister, Joyce, and Joyce was married to Billy Runyon, who was also one of our students. Steve belongs to Joyce and Billy, and sister Tam. And even showing up today with them was Steve's girlfriend back in those days. And when he started dating this young lady, I told him in practice a couple of days after I heard they had a date, I said, now Steve, if you're smart, you'll look around and find you another girl to have ready, because Patsy is too good looking and too smart for you. But they stayed together. But all the families stand and let us, we got some nieces here, nieces. But Steve, he was full of life. He was a great athlete. And Don, he was going to be close to you. He was a fine football player. When we lost Steve that year, it put the school in sadness. We had a hard time with the school year. Now the next person, well, let's put on the screen next. Marynell Meadors.
Marynell Meadors, a national native and an attendee at Hillsborough High School, graduated in 1961. She was an outstanding basketball player, earning all city honors as a member of the 1961 Hillsborough League Championship team that finished with a record of 18-1. After graduating from Hillsborough, Marynell became one of the pioneers in advancing women's basketball in Tennessee and the South. She began by attending Middle Tennessee State University, where she also had her first coaching opportunity. She later became head coach at Tennessee Tech University for 16 seasons, winning numerous league championships and twice being named Ohio Valley Conference Coach of the Year. Upon leaving there, she became head coach at Florida State University, where she also won a Metro Conference championship. In 2008, Marynell was named the WNBA Atlanta Dream's first head coach, and the next year was awarded the 2009 WNBA Coach of the Year honors. In 2010, she led the franchise to their first Eastern Conference championship. Her career has continued to skyrocket, and in 2011, she was named to the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Marynell Meadors.
We had hopes that Marynell was going to be here today, but then we've been pulling against our ball team, the Atlanta Dream. They're in the finals, I understand, of the national tournament. So we didn't want to pull against them, so Marynell was not able to make it because of the success of our team. Marynell was an excellent basketball player. What some of the, probably you don't know, some of your students, our former students, is she was an excellent softball player also. Right out of high school, she played on the top softball team in the state of Tennessee. Good third baseman, excellent third baseman. When she was in the upper elementary grade, she lived in the West High zone. And Marynell found out when she was still in grammar school that West didn't play girls basketball, didn't have the girls basketball team. So she talked to her parents, who did anything Marynell wanted to do anyhow, didn't she? Talked to them into sit in the house and move it into the Hillsborough zone, and they did, and she went to Junior Green Elementary School before coming up here to Hillsborough. She was, you could tell she was going to be an excellent coach if she chose that profession. She could play guard or forward equally well. That's when we had 6-on-6 girls team. I accused Jackie Turner, who was the coach. I said, I believe you do not start her deliberately. Let her sit on the bench for you the first couple of minutes of every game to look over the situation, or you decided whether you wanted to play a guard or forward, where you needed the most. And I think she did a lot of the coaching for you then. I still believe that. But Marynell has been very successful in her career. And once she got out of school, she's still successful, and you can see on television. All you have to watch is one of the Atlanta Dreams teams. You'll see Marynell. So I have the honor of accepting the plaque for her. so I thought, the committee, I thought they really honored me to let me do this. And especially they're worrying about the time, and so many inductees and all that, I had to keep it moving. And all these people out here I think so much of, and to give me a microphone, will I be here to dark? I didn't say anything, but I noticed they put Don Dollinger, a member of the committee, up here with me so he can jerk me every once in a while. Don't let me get mixed up here now, Don. Next inductee is Henry Nance.
Henry Nance. Henry Nance was born in Rockville, Tennessee, and graduated from Rockville High School, where he earned a football scholarship to attend Middle Tennessee State University. His football career was cut short by injury, but he continued to work hard and earned a bachelor's degree from MTSU, while also going on to Vanderbilt and graduated from Peabody College with a master's degree. Coach Nance's coaching career began at Bellevue High School, where from 1946 through 1954, his teams averaged over 8 wins per year. He then came to HILLSBORO High School in 1955, and as head football coach through the 1958 season, he acquired a record of 28 wins and 10 losses. The highlight being in 1957, HILLSBORO finished undefeated, winning the regular season city championship with a record of 10 wins and no losses. The season was climaxed in a muddy 0-0 tie with Springfield High School in the Clinic Bowl. That same year, Coach Nance was named City Coach of the Year. Coach Nance also was the head basketball coach at HILLSBORO in 1961, where they finished runner-up in the state tournament. In addition, he was an assistant coach in basketball and track, as well as a respected math teacher, and upon retirement in 1974, was honored by having the HILLSBORO High School football press box named in his honor. Henry Nance, congratulations.
Henry niece, really his wife's niece, Nancy's niece, Nancy Draper Brock. She's going to accept the award along with Steve Hall. Come on up with me. Come on, Steve. Both of these are HILLSBORO graduates. Very smart.
I am so very pleased to accept this award for Uncle Henry. When I was growing up, I would many summers come to the football field with him and Aunt Nancy while they would move the sprinklers around and trim grass here and there. And he did so much behind the scenes and really made a very, very full-time job of his job. Teaching and coaching at HILLSBORO was not just a job to him. It was truly his life and his love. And he spoke of players so often. So many of your names are just household names to me that I grew up hearing, as he loved you all dearly. He would be so very, very honored by this award, and I thank you in his behalf.
I'm Steve Hall. I was class of '62. Loved playing for Coach Nance for 4 years here. I moved on Cantrell Avenue in 1949. As I was growing up, living there from 49 to 1960, I would go down the street and play basketball with Randy Elder and Tom Buller across the street. But the big thing to me was that next door to them was the McIlhenny house. So as I was growing up, I would always go down the street, and as I would pass it, and then for my life forever, was this Tudor house at the bottom of the hill to the creek. And I would always go by and I'd tell my friends, that's Don McIlhenny's house. One thing, since Bob Clement brought it up, one thing I would like to make clear, I was on the field with him that day when we were freshmen. We were playing Glencliff. And right before the game, as the teams lined up, it was pretty obvious that this Glencliff team was not a freshman team. Coach Younger even went to the other coaches before the kickoff and said, are these freshmen? Because they were averaging 3 to 4 inches taller than they were. And they assured him that they were. Well, that day there was a fellow named Wayne Bush who went up and down the field. And it was really strange to me as I told the Glencliff people later, Mary Clement was in our class. She was at Glencliff, Bob and I here 4 years at Hillsboro. And I told her later, I said, now how could it be that this guy that's run up and down the field like it's a track meet, and he's a freshman with us, when my senior at Hillsboro, he is on the All-Southeastern Conference freshman team for the University of Tennessee. That's a true story. What I want to do is I've been asked to read an article when they created the press box and named it for Coach Nance, and this is an article, June the 21st, 1989, and it says, Hillsboro honoring ex-coach, press box to be named for Nance. They're tearing down the press box Henry Nance built at Hillsboro High School to put up a new one with his name on it. The Henry B. Nance press box will be dedicated on September the 1st at the school's 1989 homecoming game opener against Cookeville, Tennessee, honoring the school's most illustrious coach. It will fit in with the school's 50th anniversary. Coach Nance said, I think the honor comes from being remembered as much as the press box being named. The biggest thing you get out of coaching is your associations with the players and the school and the coaches you compete with. In 1954, Nance enlisted the help of a booster and constructed a press box in the school's varsity field. 35 years later, boosters are building a new box at the John Coyne Field that will bear Nance's name. Coach Nance said the last few years I've had some health problems and I haven't been able to get over to Hillsboro as much as I'd like. But I'll be there September 1st unless the man upstairs has other plans for me. Another one who will be on hand for the ceremonies will be Cookeville High School assistant Jake Libby, a 1959 Hillsboro graduate who played under Nance. Libby said, I guess he had as much influence on me as anybody in my life up to that point, except for my father. I probably would not have even thought of going into coaching if it was not for Coach Nance. We open up at Hillsboro this year, so that will be fun. Nance, who was born near Rockville in Rutherford County and attended Middle Tennessee State Teachers College, arrived in Davidson County in 1946 after being discharged from the Air Force. He coached football and basketball at Bellevue from 46 to 53 before moving to Hillsboro. He stayed with the Burros until 1968, coaching the only undefeated Hillsboro team to a 10-0-1 record that ended in a scoreless tie in the 1957 Clinic Bowl in Springfield. That team's junior fullback, Philip Grammer, took the job once held by the former coach after graduating from Middle Tennessee State and spending 15 years at Maplewood. Coach Grammer said, he's a great man. He was a tough coach, compassionate, and he brought out the best in his players. He made it a real pleasure to play for him. They ought to name the whole stadium after him. I'd be in favor of them naming the whole school after him. I enjoyed reading about that building. He's a big supporter of Hillsboro. You hardly go to one of their football or basketball games and not see him. Coach Nance said, when I retired, most of the people I had in class were always glad to see me, and I always felt like I was welcome back at Hillsboro. Grammer coached at Hillsboro for 5 years before moving to Hillwood, where he is now in charge of the Topper football team. Coach Nance lists Joe Foxhall, Steve Hall, Larry Bosey, John Broderick, Bobby Mullen, Albert Gaines, Seldon Longley, Taylor Ray, Bill Settle, Don Brown, Ted Gardner, Jake Libby, and Philip Grammer among his best players. He sent graduates to Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Georgia Tech, and other places, and his former players who are now doctors, school administrators, and military leaders. Thank you.
Henry and I coached together. We had 1 year, and we were the only two coaches we had, and I was his assistant in football, and he was my assistant in basketball. So he kept up with his hours and how much he was getting paid. Henry got $600 a year to coach at those sports. I got $400 a year, stuff on top of my teaching salary. Henry figured at the end of the year he was making 35 cents an hour. I was making less than that. But we both would have coached free, and that's the truth. We talked, we would have done it for nothing, but we didn't want Mr. Cohen to know it. We don't want to hear us say that. But it was wonderful coaching with Henry down through the years. Next inductee is Coach Jackie Turner.
Jackie Turner. Jackie Turner had an outstanding athletic